Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about week number 2 defenses to stream for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 defenses that I believe that you guys should be picking up off of your waiver wire because of the matchup they have in week number 2 that I believe will lead them to fantasy success. But before we get on into the video, I would like to ask, if you are new to my YouTube channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 fantasy football championship. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. I would also like to ask that if you have a Twitter and you would like to follow me, to please follow me on there at NotoriousFNTSY. The link to follow me on Twitter is also down below in the description. So without further ado, let's get into the video. We begin with my first week number 2 defense to stream, and that is the Denver Broncos going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. They are currently being rostered in 27.7% of leagues based upon NFL.com data. So the Denver Broncos last week, if you guys watched the week number 1 defenses to stream, they were also my number 1 defense to stream that week because I love their matchup going up against the Giants, and then I love their matchup this week going up against the Jaguars, and I love their matchup next week going up against the Jets. So they had 3 great weeks in a row, so you didn't even have to worry about cutting them and trying to scavenge your way through the waiver wire to pick up a different defense. If you are able to still acquire the Denver Broncos because they're available in 27.7% of the league, you can start them this week, and you can also start them next week up against the Jets. So last week for the Denver Broncos defense up against the Giants, they had 2 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, as well as 13 points allowed. While the Giants offense isn't amazing, they did a very, very good job at smothering that offense. Saquon Barkley, who did see limited touches, really could not get anything going on the ground. Daniel Jones really struggled mightily in that game until the end of the game, when I think the Broncos defense kind of let up a little. They were up by a lot, and they were like, fuck it. It is what it is. If they end up scoring, it's okay. But the defense played very, very well in that matchup up against the Giants. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who they're going up against, had a bad game. They had a very bad game up against the Texans defense, and the Texans, in my opinion, have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and the Jaguars offense was just so bad that they made the Texans defense look like the 85 Bears. It made absolutely zero sense that this is what happened. Basically, everyone thought the Jaguars were going to roll the Texans, including me, but it was the complete exact opposite of that. The Texans defense up against the Jaguars, like I just said, they're not very good. 1 sack, 3 INTs on Lawrence, 21 points allowed. So that was with the Texans defense. Imagine what's going to happen now when we have a real defense going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence did not look very good, in my opinion, in his debut. Now, obviously, he didn't look terrible. It wasn't like he was throwing picks left and right, but he did have 3 interceptions in that game, and he made a lot of bad decisions in that matchup up against the Texans. So I think a better defense in the Denver Broncos will take over up against the Jacksonville Jaguars offense. Next up, we have the New England Patriots going up against the New York Football Jets in New York. They are rostered right now in 50% of leagues on NFL.com. So the Patriots versus my Miami Dolphins last week was one of the more interesting games. It was a very low-scoring game. It was a very defensive-minded game. It was an interesting game. It was a fun game to watch, in my opinion. As a Dolphins fan, I was very happy that we won, but the Patriots defense looked very good. The Dolphins come out the gate on fire. Tua scores that touchdown, and then after that, the Dolphins offense was stagnant. The Patriots defense is still really fucking good, regardless of if Stephon Gilmore is there or not, and Gilmore will also be missing this matchup up against the Jets. What we saw last week for the Jets was that they came out the gate basically at turtle speed. It seemed like they might lose by 70 in this game. If the Sam Darnold-led Carolina Panthers were going to step on the gas, then the Jets looked like they had no chance. It looked like this was going to be a terrible starting game for Zach Wilson. His first ever NFL game was going to be completely and utterly limp dick, and nothing was going to happen. But then, maybe the Viagra kicked in or something, because Zach Wilson looked good at the end of the game. But that was up against the Panthers defense, who, while I said last week was a defense that I wanted to add for fantasy. They paid off. While I said that they were an underrated defense, in my opinion, that defense is nowhere near as good as the Patriots defense. Last week up against the Miami Dolphins, the Patriots defense had 2 sacks, 1 INT, and 17 points allowed. Again, a very strong matchup defensively for both the Dolphins as well as the Patriots, and the Patriots played very well in that game. The Panthers defense last week up against the New York Football Jets had 6 sacks, 1 INT, and 14 points allowed. While I believe that Saleh is going to be able to get this Jets offense flowing, while I believe that this team is not going to just crawl over and die at the beginning of the season, right? They're not a terrible team. They're not the Adam Gase Jets. They're going to be able to do things this season. But right now, up against the Patriots, a division rival, I see no way that Bill Belichick doesn't put complete and utter clamps onto the offense of the New York Football Jets. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers going up against the Detroit Lions. The Packers defense right now is rostered in 63% of the leagues. I'm sure a bunch of people are going to cut them because they did not play good at all up against the New Orleans Saints. But before we get deeper in onto the breakdown of the Packers defense, I'd like to ask if you have ended up enjoying thus far. We're about halfway through the video, to please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Again, like I said off the rip of the video, not only is it free, I put out this content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And please make sure that you hit that like button down below as well. So the Packers up against the Saints. This looked like it was a JV football team versus some D1 college football stars. It was like the Packers stood virtually no chance. Famous Jameis Winston was eating W's all game long. It was actually hilarious. Aaron Rodgers looked like he did not want to be there. Aaron Rodgers played like absolute shit. The Saints defense played really good. A lot of mistakes on Rodgers' end, but the defense was still there. The defense was one of the reasons why the Packers ended up losing that game. But the Packers here this week, they get the Detroit Lions. And sure, the Packers defense didn't look great up against famous Jameis Winston, but I believe here up against the Lions, there's no way that they are going to look bad. Now you might think, but Nick, the Lions scored a lot of points at the end. They almost actually beat the 49ers, Nick. Don't you remember? Yeah, I remember. Come on. That's not going to happen again. That's not going to happen again. That was about as fluky as it gets. Jared Goff looked like prime John Elway, prime Brett Favre. He was just one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL out there. It literally was so crazy. It was so crazy how good he looked at the end of the game. But that's not going to happen again. That was some crazy fluke, in my opinion. Now, maybe the Packers defense gets bent over a table and spanked 50 Shades of Grey style and handcuffed to the bed, something like that, right? But I doubt that's what's going to happen. What I think is going to happen is the Green Bay Packers, who just got absolutely eviscerated by the New Orleans Saints, are going to come out there and beat the shit out of the Detroit Lions. The 49ers defense last week up against the Detroit Lions in Detroit had 3 sacks, 1 INT, 1 touchdown. Sure, they had 33 points allowed, but overall, especially early on in the game, the Lions offense was bad. And I believe the Packers defense is good enough, just like the 49ers defense was, to hold the Detroit Lions down here and make it so that the Lions are not able to score too many points in this matchup here in a very angry version of the Green Bay Packers, because they're not going to want to lose 2 in a row here, especially to a team that, in my opinion, is as bad as the Detroit Lions. Next up, we got a team we just talked about, the New Orleans Saints going up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. The Saints defense is rostered in 54% of leagues right now. Last week up against the Green Bay Packers, the Saints defense was really good. 2 sacks, 2 INTs, 1 fumble recovery, as well as 3 points allowed in that game. Now, I will attribute it to the defense. I'll also attribute it to the fact that, like I said, Rodgers just didn't look good. I don't know if there was something off in that game. It seems like him and Devontae Adams weren't necessarily on the same page as well at points in the game. It seemed like this was going to just be a bad game. Now, if you guys remember, basically every single year, no matter how good the offense is, there's going to be these games that are just bad. That are just bad, where an offense that you think is going to be amazing, they just shit the bed, and it's okay. Normally it doesn't happen week 1, but week 1 is when I'm going to be not as hard on these teams, not as hard on these players, because after week 1, basically everyone overreacts. Everyone fucking panics. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Nick, Ezekiel Elliott didn't play too good. Should I trade him for a used condom? Like things like that. People get nervous about that. And again, if you ask that kind of a question, there is nothing wrong with that because I understand. I used to panic as well a lot in fantasy football. It used to happen to me all the time. I used to get so nervous when one of my star players ends up playing like shit. You drafted Aaron Rodgers in like the 8th round, 7th, maybe 6th, 5th round of your draft. Don't be nervous. He's Aaron Rodgers. He was the MVP last year. Do not panic about shit like this, but it happens every single year. I know this isn't a main factor of the video talking about Aaron Rodgers, but all I'm saying is that, please, guys, do not panic. Do not panic at all about what happened in week number 1. It was just one game. There's a lot of them in the season. There's a lot of games. This is just the beginning. If your team started off 0-1, guess what? Next week, you're 1-1, and you're right back into things. So, with the Green Bay Packers, that game was just bad on the offense for them. The defense looked bad. But again, I think the defense looked good against Detroit, and I believe that the Saints defense was part of the reason why Aaron Rodgers was so off last week. The Jets defense going up against the Carolina Panthers last week, they played all right. 1 sack, 1 fumble recovery, as well as 19 points allowed. The Panthers had an all-right offense. Sam Darnold was in the revenge game mode. He did play quite well up against the Jets, but it didn't seem like they had the will to really step on the gas and just end the game. And here, going up against the Saints, it's going to be a lot different because you know how the Panthers didn't really, push through the game, right? They had it seemed like an easy win early on, and then things started to go kind of south later on in the game. Now, obviously, Christian McCaffrey played well, Darnold played well, DJ Moore looked good, Robbie Anderson looked good. The whole offense looked, and they seemed to have gelled well. But that was up against the Jets defense. The Jets defense is not very good. But here, they're going up against the Saints defense, who just locked up the Green Bay Packers. So I think the Saints should have no problem locking down Mr. Mono Man Sam in this matchup. Final defense to discuss in today's video is the Cleveland Browns going up against the Houston Texans, 23.1% rostered on NFL.com. The Cleveland Browns defense didn't look amazing up against the Chiefs last week. 2 sacks, 33 points allowed. But they were early on in the game able to keep the Chiefs from taking over. And then obviously the Chiefs end up winning the game, which is what happens every single time, right? Unless you just put up so many points to where it is impossible for the Chiefs to come back, or the other defense is just that good like the Buccaneers, most of the time, the Chiefs are just going to find a way to crawl their way back into the game and win. The Browns defense, though, didn't look bad, in my opinion. The Jacksonville Jaguars defense up against the Houston Texans last week, they were bad. They were very bad. The Houston Texans, like I said at the beginning of this video, Tyrod Taylor looked like fucking Patrick Mahomes out there. Tyrod Taylor literally looked like one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. For what reason? Tyrod Taylor isn't very good at all, but the Jacksonville Jaguars defense only had 1 sack and 37 points allowed. That's not what's going to happen when you're going up against the Browns defense. The Browns defense will be able to suffocate you. Tyrod Taylor is not going to be able to play very well at all in this matchup. I think Tyrod Taylor got very lucky that the Jaguars defense just rolled over and got their belly pet by him. There was no reason why Tyrod Taylor should have looked that good on Sunday, and there is no reason that is going to happen again this week up against a legitimate Cleveland Browns defense. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And please, if you have any questions, comments, concerns about anything in this video, maybe none of these defenses are available, you need another look, go ahead and ask me down below in the comments. I'll make sure to help you guys pick up a defense for week number 2 of the 2021 Fantasy Football season. I hope you guys won your matchups, but again, if you lost in week number 1, don't fucking panic, don't be scared, it's okay, it's okay. You're going to lose a couple of times of the season. All that matters is that at the end of the year, you're the one winning the whole thing, and that's what we're going to try to do every single week on this channel, is try to get you guys a W. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I love you guys all. Make sure that you stay safe. As always, goodbye.